Hi everyone. Today I'm handling topic 6 of supply chain management information systems, and topic 6 is about e-procurement strategy formulation. So the key word here is strategy formulation. By now you have understood what is e-procurement, how you go about it, how do you develop a system, how you change from the manual system to the e-procurement. Now today we're handling strategy formulation. So e-procurement itself is a strategy. It is a strategy. You want to introduce e-procurement. What strategy do you use? So this topic is about strategy formulation, and then the next coming topic is about strategy implementation, e-procurement strategy implementation. So it means if you understand how to formulate a strategy, it will be easier for you to understand how a strategy is implemented. So we shall start by understanding what is a strategy. That is the first thing you understand. A strategy is a plan on doing something. If we sit down and say we plan to come up with an e-procurement system, then there has to be a strategy in place. How do we go about it? What should be in place? So it is basically a strategy or a plan for you implementing or coming up with an e-procurement system. So if you want to understand more what a strategy is, there are basic criteria of a strategy, what a strategy must include if you come up with a strategy. But at the back of your mind, just understand a strategy is a plan. It is a plan. So I want to introduce e-procurement system. I need a plan on how to go about it. So that is now the essence or the importance of this particular topic. So it has to be a strategic direction for procurement activities. So it has to be specific for procurement activities. It has to have key planning initiatives. There have to be decisions that will be made. There has to be a communication strategy, the roles and responsibilities of different people in the organization. So it is basically an all-round plan for you to be able to implement a procurement, an e-procurement, a process or platform, etc. So what are the components of an e-procurement strategy? Of course, we need leadership. Someone has to take charge. Leadership, we need legislation. Procurement should have legislation and policies. Just like every normal procurement organization has procurement laws, procurement policies, they have to be in place. Policies related to confidentiality of information, policies related to intellectual property. So we need legal and legislation and policies in place, especially those related to procurement. We need activation of suppliers. You cannot come up with a system without suppliers. So you have to bring suppliers on board, tell them their roles, tell them how they shall be able to participate in this particular plan or in this particular e-procurement strategy. Infrastructure has to be in place. And when we talk about infrastructure, we talk about the hardware, the software, we talk about the people who are supposed to be involved, connectivity, all that is part of the infrastructure. And then functionality and standards. You have to have standards. Because you're coming up with an e-procurement system, it has to meet a certain standard. So for you to come up with a strategy or an e-procurement plan, then all those components have to be available. Of course, we have preconditions for launching an e-procurement strategy. Things like commitment in leadership, legislation, understanding your policies, procedures, guidelines. You need internet. You need to develop confidence with your users. All that is important. And then next, you need to also align your e-procurement to the organization's strategic plan. You don't have to come up with a procurement plan that is against the organization's plan. So look at the total organization's plan, align your procurement plan into that strategic plan of the organization so that there are no differences. Whatever is in the strategic plan of the organization is what has been captured in the e-procurement plan or strategy. Once that is in place, you understand the e-procurement strategic objectives. What are the objectives of e-procurement in terms of governance, institutional capacity, functionality, and interoperability? Remember, the system you're bringing on board should be related to the systems that are already available. E-procurement system is just one of the systems. It doesn't mean because they have an e-procurement system, it's the only system. The accounting people have their own system. Maybe we have an ERP system that is already running. So it means whatever you're bringing on board should not contradict with whatever is already existing. That is what we call interoperability. Adoption, how will it be adopted? Will you require training? If yes, who will be training? All that should be part or captured in your plan, because remember, you're planning for the system. Then you go ahead and develop and implement the e-procurement strategy. We are not developing, we are not implementing e-procurement system. Remember, this topic is developing and implementing e-procurement strategy, the plan itself. And of course, the system is inclusive of the plan. But we are looking at the plan, not the system. We've already looked at the system in other topics. So there are 7-step process. First, you verify the procurement goals. What do you want to achieve? Second, you review the procurement process. What do you currently use as the procurement process? Step 3, you develop a business case for e-procurement. You focus on that particular business case. And then step 4, there are supposed to be 7, develop a supplier integration matrix. How will you integrate the supplier? Remember, in procurement, a supplier is so critical to you. You cannot develop a system on your own, forget about the supplier. So try and see how will you integrate the supplier into your system. Step 5, choose an e-procurement software. Now this is where you choose a software that you will have to use. We've already looked at how you develop a procurement software. So here is where you choose. Are you going to buy it in-house? Are you going to produce yourself, or are you going to outsource? As you choose a software application, you choose the method of you applying. Will you do the off-the-shelf? Will you develop your own system? Will you use the outsourcing option? So you do that in step 5. Step 6, you come and integrate the software with other systems. Remember, we've said the procurement system is just part of other systems in an organization. So you have to do the integration. And then step 7, you educate. Education is now training. You train people on how to use the system or how to be able to implement the system. So that is a simple process. There is also another 12-step process, still doing the same, but maybe the application is in a different organization, but it is one and the same thing. And then you look at the role of consultants in developing an e-procurement strategy. You may want to develop a strategy or a plan, but you may need a consultant, a person who is well versed with the information related to developing an e-procurement strategy. You may need to come up with a consultant or bring on board a consultant who will be able to do the things that we have just talked about. They are not coming to do something different. They are coming to help you come up with a procurement strategy, an e-procurement strategy. So that is the work. So you can consider bringing on board a consultant, and their work will just be the same. 1, to review the procurement policies, processes, systems. Number 2, to develop better goals, objectives, to identify strengths and weaknesses of the organization or a suitable approach, to evaluate the e-procurement software, to assess the IT staff. So they're just coming to do things that you would have done yourself in strategy planning, but now because they are experts in doing that, they will do it in a better way. So you can involve consultants. And then, of course, you need competent consultants. You will require people who have knowledge related to procurement systems. They can have good communication or interpersonal or presentation skills. They can establish or build good relationships. They can identify problems and propose solutions. That is the competence of this consultant. They can generate new ideas and approaches. Those are some of the qualifications. Once you have gotten them, of course, they will also need them to have a certain knowledge or certain skills in doing the same. Of course, we have risks in e-procurement strategy. Risks like if you come up with a weak business case, that is risky. Failure of stakeholders to buy in your strategy. You may come up with a very good plan or a good strategy, and then the stakeholders say, no, we are not buying into that. Maybe because they feel it will affect them in one way or the other. Sometimes users may not be able to collaborate. Sometimes the budget is just not enough. All these are risks. You can come up with a good strategy, but we are not saying they will not be able to face risks. But you can also mitigate such risks by avoiding the risk. Sometimes you can transfer the risk. Sometimes you can mitigate. To mitigate is to minimize the risk, or you can accept the risks. Every strategic plan comes with a risk. So you can just look at this risk and say it is just so minor. We can just accept the consequences of the risk. So those are 4 ways you can deal with any form of risk. And of course, as you're dealing with risk, you have to come up with a risk register to show what are the risks you're likely to face during strategy planning or a strategic e-procurement strategy. Describe the risk, look at the probability of the risk happening, impact of the risk, prevention, how can you prevent, and then you identify a specific person who can be able to manage the risk. So in every strategy, when you're coming up with any strategy in e-procurement, you will of course meet risks. So if you meet any risks, you should be able to handle them the way they come. So that is it. If you understand this particular topic, it will enable you understand the next one, because now this is strategy formulation. The next one is strategy implementation. If you've already come up with now the plan that we are calling the strategy formulation, then how do you now go ahead and implement that same plan? That one will be handled in the following or the next topic. So we can be able to meet then and be able to see how e-procurement strategies are implemented.